progress is being made to contain a fire in Wolseley and Ceres in the Cape Winelands. The fire started around lunchtime yesterday in the mountains above the R46. If favourable weather conditions continue, it's hoped that the fire will be contained in the next few hours. Let's get an update from Otto, who is at the fire service spokesperson for the Cape Winelands District Municipality. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, Joanne. And perhaps if you could just give us an update on really just the depths that the fire has reached and its aggressiveness and the ability of firefighters to contain it.
Okay, so this afternoon there's been some good news as our firefighters have done well in containing the fire above the heritage tall house, and that's quite high up in the mountains. There are currently 75 crew on scene, and so we've thrown quite a lot of resources at it, including 2 helicopters. This particular fire has been a little bit challenging due to the very rugged terrain that they've been having to work on, as well as a low cloud cover that came down in the night, some mist that came down, which made working conditions a little bit difficult and a little bit dangerous for the guys, the ground teams on the ground. However, we're really hopeful that we'll be able to contain it by the early afternoon. And then, of course, after that, it's at least 24 hours of mopping up and monitoring operations.
Yeah, tell us, are there any casualties of this particular fire or the extent of damage that has been caused as you try to contain it, as you've just explained?
So we were very fortunate that we managed to avoid any further damages to property. So the fire teams actually diverted the fire away from where there was some infrastructure and some crops, pushed the fire up into the mountains. Where the second challenge came in is where there's a lot of alien vegetation, a lot of mixed vegetation, which makes firefighting activities particularly difficult. So there were no injuries reported, which is again very fortunate. In fact, so far this season we've had no injuries except for one of our firefighters who suffered a bit of dehydration in the previous big fire. And then we're really working hard to maintain safety, not only for our own staff, but also that is our priority, is the prevention of loss of life as well as livelihoods. So that's been very fortunate. And then as well as the fact that some of the indigenous vegetation, like the proteas, are quite old, so they're actually benefiting a little bit from this burn. And the fire guys, together with our partners in Cape Nature, are trying to guide the fire to best benefit the veld, our indigenous fauna, but also to prevent it from moving too far into the dense alien vegetation, where it can easily become a runaway fire due to the nature of alien vegetation.
Yeah, I mean, you did mention that the weather conditions were not favourable, and the 75 firefighters are out there, including the helicopters, containing it and moving it out of a danger, as you explained to us a little bit earlier. But how confident are you that as soon as it's contained, you will be able to continue on those cleanup operations in a 24-hour period? Are there no concerns that any flare-ups might happen?
Definitely. It's always a concern until the fire has been fully contained and in fact extinguished for a full period of 24 hours. We don't consider that fire extinguished. So we call it being a cold ground. So we want that ground to be completely cold and inactive for 24 hours. And we're saying we're cautiously optimistic always. At the moment, the weather conditions are favorable. It's nice and cool, there's low cloud cover, there's even a minute chance of a little bit of rain, but that all makes it unlikely that there'll be flare-ups. However, that being said, we don't know what happens. The wind can change suddenly and turn the direction of the fire line, and it can move into an area with a high fuel load, and then we're back to where we started, where we have to start increasing and releasing our services again into a new area. And that's really what we'd like to avoid at this stage.
And maybe just as a final thought, Joanne, we are seeing almost the end of the rainy season on our side. And I'm just wondering, in the Cape, what are you expecting in terms of these fires to flare up in different places? We have reported on different ones on Table Mountain late last year, for example. What are you all anticipating in terms of potential fires that could come about before we enter the winter period?
Okay, so we're in the Western Cape. We're entering our fire season. It actually stretches from the 1st of November to the end of April. So for the summer months, because we're a winter rainfall area, we experience a high level of a high fire index. And then we have, combined with that, due to all kinds of factors, at the moment we've had very little winter rain and the veld is extremely dry. We are expecting an increased fire season. Right across the province, our fire services, and particularly here in the Cape Winelands, are gearing up for what could be a very, very busy season, due to the fact that the ground is really, really dry, so there's no moisture, and there's very little rain expected. So and we are expecting a very hot summer. And that is internationally due to climate change. We know that temperatures are increasing, and we know, unfortunately, that has quite a dire effect on our ecology. And then so we're in the Cape Winelands, we're expecting some fires. We do see approximately 1,300 fires here in our area during the fire season. At this stage, already so early in the fire season, we've seen a number of fires that have taken up a lot of time. We had late last year, and in fact now between Christmas and New Year, we've had several fires in De Toyskloof, which were very unfortunate due to the high traffic volume as well. So we've already seen the impact of that dryness and the early onset of heat having on our fire services itself. That's the one factor. And the other factor is actually from about the 15th of February until about the 15th of March. That's actually our busiest time for fires. And that is particularly where we are putting a lot of our resources, and where we're concerned that our resources will be quite strained due to the high level of fires we find in that very, very hot period of the year. We're very fortunate in the Cape Winelands to have excellent partnerships with various people who assist us, and that would be Cape Nature, our local farm protection association, the FPA, Winelands FPA, have good partnerships with us. We have a good relationship with the landowners in the area, and everyone really works together to do our best to prevent loss of life and livelihoods. There are other factors as well, Rafil, where illegal dumping next to communities or even estate housing where there's open veld is a big factor. It's a big threat. You know, where illegal dumping is so vulnerable to fire, and that threatens homes and houses and businesses that are situated close to the veld areas. And that's something that we're also addressing via local municipalities. And again, I'm expressing, really urging the public to avoid that. Currently, we are in our social season, and we actually have a campaign at the moment urging people not to make fires where they may not or where they shouldn't. So where there are no braai facilities, please don't make a fire. It's just really too dangerous. And often we find that people not intentionally starting fires, but it's accidental. They leave without putting the fire out properly, and a little bit of a breeze comes up and a veld fire establishes itself in that area. So come and visit us in the Cape Winelands, but don't start fires. Braai at home is the big message for the summer season.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for leaving us with those insights. That is Joanne Otto, who's the fire service spokesperson for the Cape Winelands District Municipality, saying come along and visit us during your break this holiday season, but certainly do not start any braai fires, just at the risk of sparking up any flare-ups during the fire season.